Testing 1, 2, 3. This will be the February 10th, 2015 City Council Board Handbook Workshop meeting.
Are we done?
Right. I'd like to call to order a City Council Board Handbook Workshop meeting of the City of Satellite Beach, February 10th, 2015, approximately 7 p.m. Agenda item, the only one on discuss, make recommendation of the City Board's Handbook.
No.
Okay.
Okay. Almost everything in here was complete. I highlighted some things that I wanted to bring to your attention, so we'll go through this and catch the yellow. And may I assume that you've all read this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes, ma'am.
That's some city profile, isn't it? Yes. Okay, in the city history, my historian went on a cruise and left me stranded. So I need to confirm that the original charter was replaced in 1973, and I need to confirm that it was in 1976 that the city library became part of the Brevard County Library System. And then if you'll go to page 10.
Excuse me, hold on one second, please.
I have confirmation of the first portion. I just didn't get time to do the library.
What's the date?
For the ordinance 141 was 1973. Let me give that to you.
That was the replacement of the charter? Okay.
And this would have ratified the election portion for you.
Thank you. Okay. Then if you'll go to page 10, in the very last paragraph on the second line, I don't know how we got this particular copy, but that second line should say, which the U.S. Air Force had sold, not then sold, had sold to a private developer. Had sold.
I don't know that they sold it.
Yeah, they did. Trust me.
The north portion.
They sold
the
it.
north portion was sold.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
north
sold.
portion. Okay. Never mind.
Okay. Then on page 13, under term of office.
Actually, Maureen, can we go back one thing? Part of, is the 274 the whole south housing, or are you just talking the north side? Because they didn't,
See, they didn't sell the whole parcel.
well, actually, they did. They sold it, well, actually, that, I guess, technically, yeah, they did. They sold it. It's subject to deed restrictions, but they sold the property.
Okay.
They did sell it.
I thought.
And then basically what they did was, what happened was, this is on recollection, but what happened was, is that the Air Force bid it all out, and Carabetta contested it, or Montecito contested it, and Carabetta.
Phoenix
Yeah.
Corporation
Correct.
contested it.
And they were tied in together, and then they cut a deal so that the south end stayed with Pelican or whatever, and then the north side, Carabetta and Montecito or Phoenix or whatever it is, cut their own deal, and then they cut their own deal between themselves. So it was all ultimately sold, but it wasn't all sold to one person, is how it ended up working out. But it was all sold.
So money exchanged hands.
Correct.
Okay.
So is this worded correctly?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think technically it's right. It's just, there's nuances to it that we don't really need to get into.
Yeah, we're not into nuance.
Is the acreage right, or does?
That's
it
the
not?
one question I don't know.
I thought it was over 300.
That's what I thought it was too.
Yeah.
Lorraine, the only question I have is whether that 274 is accurate for the whole south housing.
The total was 300 something,
And
but
that's,
you've got those fields in there that the Air Force retained, of which the soccer field was one of them.
So that the 274 may be
I don't think so.
developable acres?
well, the 27, no, what John's saying is See, that's what I thought too, it was over 300 acres for the whole area. What John's saying is that what's excised out of that is some of the stuff that the Air Force retained, but I still don't know what the exact number, why don't we just say that that's what it is, except we're going to confirm the acreage as to what actually was conveyed. Because there was some stuff the Air Force retained and some that wasn't, and, I mean, if you want to get down to 274 and you want to be accurate, if you want to be like that, then we probably need to get the exact number of acres.
I agree.
But it was all sold except for the minor things that John said were retained by the Air Force, which was the chapel and the fields and that stuff.
Or you could add the word approximately 274 acres and be done with it.
Yeah. But I don't even know if it's, I mean, that's what I'm saying is I don't remember if it's closer to 300 or not. I don't know where the 274 came from. That's my only question.
Should be easy to find out.
Correct. No, I agree. I'm just saying we can just say that
It
it's,
will be confirmed.
yeah. We'll just confirm whatever number it is and insert it.
Okay.
Go to page 13.
Got it.
At the top where it says term of office. When we went through this in, I think, the first workshop, there was quibbling about why do you have term limits. David Schechter said, why do you have term limits for boards? And then Mark suggested that we say, well, they're generally limited to 2 terms. And I'm going to argue this one. Putting generally there doesn't mean anything. It's just one of those words that take up space that have no effect. And I absolutely think we need to stick to term limits for board members, because every now and then you get a board member who is a problem, does not work well with other board members, and if you have this term limit in place, then you can let that person go without starting a big political brouhaha. So this is something we've always had, and it serves a useful purpose.
And I think the last part of that sentence allows the council to make that decision.
That's right. So I want to strike the word generally.
Okay?
I don't have a problem with it.
Me either. I'm okay.
Okay. On page 19, I referenced the parliamentary guide. I'm still playing with that.
Yes, it's highlighted in the front, too.
What?
You have it
Yes.
highlighted on page 2 also.
I know.
Okay.
On page 23, prohibition, it is my recollection that the council agreed that we would strike the words except for the city council. I've been working on this thing so long that sometimes now I have forgotten where I got stuff from, but I think that was the decision of council, so that's why I've highlighted it here. And I think that we were saying that, you know, the ex parte communication shall be avoided by everyone. I think that was the point of that.
So you're saying the city council cannot go visit a site?
Well, you came in here looking for trouble, didn't you?
I was just, you know, I think we should be able
Except
to.
that you do get in down here under the required disclosure regarding site visits, but that also talks about just the Board of Adjustment and the Planning and Zoning Advisory Board. My recollection is that it was Courtney who had suggested that we strike except for the city council. But she's not here tonight, so we could just go ahead and stick that back in there.
I would recommend doing that, only because, I mean, I remember when this first came up, when the Jennings case from South Florida first came up, the issue is that the council decided that council would be treated differently than everybody else at the time because it was council, and they did not want to bar constituents from speaking to them about anything and having repercussions from basically telling them I can't talk to you. That was one of the reasons why they had the except for in there before, as it applies to council. And basically, council can disclose, I mean, that's been kind of beat into council, and I think council's been very good about saying if they've talked to anybody about anything. I mean, you don't necessarily identify the specific person, but you identify the general subject matter of any discussions that you've had with people.
I think it's important to put it in because, like tomorrow, I'm going to lunch with some developers, and if it's something about property here, you know, I have to disclose. So I think
Okay, so
that's going to come up,
Put it back in.
yeah, more than it's not.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay.
Then go down to rebuttal. This is language that is currently out of the code, or out of the current code, and Barbara caught this, because this doesn't make sense. It says, any person desiring to rebut any ex parte communication shall be allowed to do so, as long as the rebuttal is made prior to or at the hearing before any vote is taken. Well, that's nonsense, because the ex parte communication isn't revealed until the hearing, so how are you going to rebut it beforehand? So what I'm suggesting is that we say, as long as the rebuttal is made, strike prior to or, and just have it read, as long as the rebuttal is made at the hearing before any vote is taken on the matter.
Read that again the way you want it.
And then just take out those three words.
Take out prior to or, so it'll read, any person desiring to rebut any ex parte communication shall be allowed to do so, as long as the rebuttal is made at the hearing before any vote is taken on the matter.
I would change it. I would make it or at any hearing, as opposed to the hearing. And let me explain to you what the reason why is. Some of the cases talk about how a person can truly rebut an ex parte communication if they had no idea what the communication was until the actual meeting. So a meeting could theoretically be continued, so that's all I'm saying is just put, instead of at the hearing, say at any hearing. I don't know whether you feel strongly one way or the other about it, but in other words, if there's enough people that complain about what the ex parte communication was or what the subject matter of it was, so that the people in the audience had essentially no ability, reasonable ability to effectively refute or rebut whatever the ex parte communication was that was just disclosed at that meeting, then the meeting theoretically could be continued to another date and time.
Then you could say, as long as the rebuttal is made at a hearing before any vote is taken.
That's fine.
Okay, and then the next paragraph is penalties, and I highlighted failure to disclose an ex parte communication as provided above can nullify the board's decision, and I just simply don't remember where I got that.
That's from the Jennings case. That's that Jennings case. That's what the reason, let me rephrase that. That's what precipitated the stand that council put into the code as to why they have to disclose everything, is because based on Jennings, depending upon the nature and scope of whatever the ex parte communication was, the decision of the board can be set aside.
Okay,
So I would leave that in there, yeah.
Okay.
Because that's the true effect or potential impact. That's the true potential impact of an undisclosed ex parte communication.
Okay. And dual lawful withholding is one of those things that could get very complicated, and when you read the Florida Constitution and whatnot, it gets into some real shady areas, and so I just put that general statement, and then, you know, if you have a question about it, seek legal advice. The reality is that we almost never get that issue, almost never. Okay, so then we come to Section 4, which is where you get into the individual and boards, and I made this statement at the bottom: provisions in board descriptions in Section 4 of this handbook take precedence over any conflicting provisions elsewhere in this handbook. And the reason I did that is because, for instance, like on a quorum and on what constitutes a passing vote. Board of Adjustment requires 4 votes, not just 3, for something to pass, for a variance to be approved. Code Enforcement Board requires 4 votes. And so anyway, rather than run the risk of forgetting to mention a board in the front section when we talk about what vote passes, I just stopped trying to mention those peculiar boards up in the front section and just put this statement here. So what is in these board descriptions is what takes precedent if it conflicts with something that's in the general information part.
Okay.
Now, on all of this language for all of these boards, I have taken the material out of the city code, and I have captured all of the language, the provisions in the code, and it's transferred here. And my recommendation is that we then rescind those portions of the city code, because all that material is here. Yes. And so that was my rationale for that. Okay. On the Code Enforcement Board, take a look. This is what we're left with. There was quite a bit of stuff out of Florida statutes that govern code enforcement, and so this is also one of those, just like I was suggesting that we do with the pension plan boards. In this handbook, the Florida statute provisions that govern code enforcement, they are in addition to the things that were in the city code. City code stuff is here. There's additional statutory stuff, and I'm recommending that that also go in this handbook under this cover page for Code Enforcement Board. And I wanted to ask, under duties, it says it's a quasi-judicial board which conducts hearings and decides alleged uncorrected or repeated violations of any current city ordinance or city code provision. City ordinance? Really?
I don't understand the question.
This is one and the same, right?
Huh? Does the Code
It's one and the
Enforcement
same.
Board ever enforce an ordinance?
That's what they are. It's a code of ordinances.
It's one and the same. I think it's two.
Yeah, I
It
think
means the
they're the
same
same
thing. City
But
code
you
and
can-
ordinance.
You can have an ordinance that doesn't have anything to do with the city code.
I don't think so. Can you?
Sure you can.
Yeah.
Yes, but I don't know that we have any regulatory ordinances that are not in the code.
I know, and so that's why I think city ordinance should be stricken.
But I don't know that. That's the problem. I don't know if that's a fact or not.
Well,
I see what you're saying, yeah.
And the other thing is you don't know what's going to happen in the future either. I mean, if there's some other ordinance that the city decides to adopt, and it's not included in the code, then code enforcement theoretically could not enforce it if you don't leave that in there.
How about if we rephrased it and had it say, any current city code ordinances or provisions? Because they're code ordinances. You're spelling it out as it's a code ordinance, not just a city code. Because if it's the Code Enforcement Board, it would be a code ordinance that was related to the city code.
All you need to do is just say, any current city ordinance.
Because the code would have to
Because the code is an ordinance. All the codes, all the provisions of the city code are in fact ordinances. So to me, you're better off just saying any current city ordinance. Okay. And then put a period after ordinance.
Because any code would have been adopted by ordinance, right?
I don't like it. It's Code Enforcement Board, not the Ordinance Enforcement Board.
Isn't an ordinance a code, though?
No, that's what the whole discussion's been about is
Well, then
not
it's-
every ordinance that's approved is included in the code, just like this handbook is going to not be in the code of ordinances anymore.
Okay, so then we'll leave it as it is. Any current city ordinance or city code provision.
That's fine.
All right. down at the bottom, in the highlighted, I went back when I finished all of these and I looked through the rest of the city code, and I came upon a few provisions that are applicable to certain boards. They don't directly relate to those boards. Let me take Sampson's Island, for instance. There's a section in the code that deals with the Sampson's Island Board. And then there's another section that talks about what does to be done out there and so forth and so on. And even though the second part doesn't relate directly to the board, I thought it would be interesting to have that information to give to, for instance, the Sampson's Island Board, so that they can see the big picture of where they fit in to stuff relating to Sampson's Island. It's just, it's not necessary, but it's informative. And I think the fuller picture you give board members, the more invested I think they become. So that's why I was just suggesting on this one, we place chapter 2, behind this page in the handbook.
Backup material, as we say.
Yeah.
Backup material. Not on the primary slide, but backup material.
And so this, so basically on all yours here, you want to place backup information that's pertinent to it.
Did I talk about the Code Enforcement Board statute provisions?
Well, you said you were going to slide them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they are, they govern the Code Enforcement Board. They're not just nice to know additional information. Did I talk about that?
Yes.
Yes.
CRA Board. Got that down to that little bit right there. Mayor Schechter, at our last meeting, gave me the latest set of procedures for the CRA board. I made sure that everything that was in that procedure list is in this handbook so that we can dump those additional procedures.
and the number of members is 9 to 7 now, and that's correct? Correct? on
No,
that?
the number is 7.
Correct, but we were at 9 on that board,
Yes.
and now.
Yes.
Yes, and we're at
Okay,
7.
yes.
And 2 alternates.
Mhm.
And then place all of Chapter 31 behind this page. That was just an informational thing. On the CPAB, all of the material from the code is here. There was another part regarding comprehensive plan that for informational purposes I was suggesting we put behind this page in the handbook, as well as a copy of the city charter that deals with CPAB and the Florida statute, which I have referenced up at the top. Okay.
Really quick, on the board roster, it referenced for CPAB to meet minimum quarterly, and you don't have that referenced in your sheet. Did you want that, to add that?
No. Wait a minute. Who are we talking about?
The Comprehensive Planning Advisory Board.
No. We do have it for the pension plan boards.
Is there a reason you don't, is there a reason you don't want it there, show them that they have to meet
Why,
at least
if
quarterly?
they don't have an agenda, why must they meet? That's wasting time.
But I thought they had to meet at least once a quarter.
because the code said so,
Our code.
our code.
Okay, I just, was
There's,
it our?
there's nothing statutory.
Story, I guess, yeah, that's a better way, thank you. There's nothing statutorial that makes it, okay.
I'll check it again, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. I have here all of the code and code provisions for the general employees pension plan. And we get into the firefighters, firefighters and police, and then we have the Florida statute, 175 and 185 on those, on that board, along with the city code regarding that, the police and firefighters and police. Okay, then go to page 34 on the firefighters and police pension plan board of trustees. On the number of members, we were questioning that one member elected by the other four members as to whether or not it had to be a resident. The Florida statute says nothing more than one member elected by the other four board members, and I think we're stuck with that. Would you agree?
Yes. I found the case that I talked about to council earlier, Diana Beyer case from a long time ago. It was a different issue, but it's kind of similar. But as far as how the courts restrictively read this particular statute, and just from a statutory interpretation perspective, I don't see a court allowing the city to do something other than what's in there. And as noted, I mean, this is a summary, is that the two other appointments that the statute actually says 2 legal residents, and the other one just says 1 member.
So in other words, it doesn't have to be a city.
It doesn't. So, the courts generally look at what language the legislature uses, and if they use words in one context and don't use it in another context, it's presumed they knew what they were saying. And when they required 2 residents for the other 2 board members, and they didn't include that language for the 5th member, that's what they meant, that they didn't have to be legal residents.
They can be illegal residents like somebody we know. Okay. Then the P&Z. Everything that was in the code regarding P&Z is here, and the only thing I would do is to place that charter provision just for informational purposes behind this in the handbook. Then here's the reference on page 38, the Samson Solid Working Board, just suggesting that we add that information, additional information behind this. Okay, then we get to our forms. Lenore, are you happy with this application form? Yes. Okay. Here's the revised application to serve on city boards. Look for an error on that. Then we have...
There's not a period.
Oh, I guess I didn't... I'm having to redo these forms. I had originally done them many years ago in the WordPerfect software program, which is an absolute joy to work with. And now I have to work in Word, which is torture. So I'm really struggling to make these look as good. But here's the board attendance record that I redid. I need to give you this master copy. You can pass it on down. You want to see that? And this leaves a place for 7 primary members and 2 alternates. And this is how we can keep track of attendance at each meeting.
Good with me.
And then we have the ex parte communication disclosure form. You have that. And on the back is all the information out of this handbook, which describes who and what regarding filling out this form. And I need to keep that on the back. And the front of the form does deal with the city council as being one of the entities that can make site visits and so forth, so. And then, we have a number, 2, 4, 6, as a matter of fact, 6 state forms that our board members need to be aware of, or at least some of them do. For instance, Form 1 is a statement of financial interest. These are just state forms, which we'll get copies of. And then 1F is the statement of financial interest, your final statement when you go off of a board. Then the disclosure of business transaction, relationship, or interest, that's Form 4A, and that's the form that the someone filed an ethics complaint fruitlessly against a resident, and but because that did come up as an issue, even though it was wrong in the context in which it came up, I did put that in here. Then 8B is the memorandum of voting conflict, and Form 9 is the quarterly gift disclosure and for gifts over $100, and Form 10 is annual disclosure of gifts from governmental entities and direct support organizations. And in the Section 3 that deals with the legal requirements for board members, every one of these forms is discussed, so they know how to use them and when they would be required to use them. So we'll have those. And there are a number of Board of Adjustment forms which I need to redo. I had done these back when I was chair of the Board of Adjustment. But there's a variance checklist, procedures for administrative review or variance public hearings, then the variance application, and the legal ad.
Question. On the Form 1 and the Form F1F, every year they change the year date. So although they may preliminary receive this one year, they would have to either check with the city clerk or go on the website to fill out the appropriate form.
Okay, I'll make a note of that.
Question on forms and where they will be or noted. Obviously, certain boards, like Samsung, some will not have the need for some of those forms. So when you I'm just thinking out loud here, when you hand this handbook to someone, shouldn't the appropriate forms be in the section that the board pertains to? So if it's a comprehensive plan board that has these forms that are needed in that section, the forms are there also for them.
Rather than making this needlessly complicated, every board member is going to get those first 3 general information sections. So if...
Okay, I understand what you're going to do. We're going to have a book for each...
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I was under the impression we're going to have this handbook that we hand it to someone. They'll know everything about any board they want in it.
No, every board member will get a handbook that has the first three general information applicable to everybody sections. And then the fourth part of it will be the information that applies to just that person's board. So they won't get all these other boards.
But I think also maybe just thinking here, if you're new and you don't know what board you really are interested in, it would be nice to be able to hand that person a complete thing on the board so they can look at it and learn about the boards where they might be interested in helping in the city.
Well, I would think that they could get that information off the website.
How about if we,
Again, I was just thinking, I'm telling you, that there's so much work you put into this over the years to get it here, and that it's a piece that has a lot of information to it.
I'm kind of thinking along the same lines that Frank is. If we, for these particular forms down here at the bottom, if we left draft on the form, because you could say, these forms change yearly, you know, with the dates on the forms, this is just a draft of what the form looks like. The form is available on the city's website, and you have this draft in the boards you're talking about, so that they know they've got to fill out this form, and it can be loaded down on the city website. From year to year, the current form is available.
You probably changed the word from draft to example.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, it just, they can't use the one that's in the book. So it's not like they would make a copy of it and file it, and it'd be the wrong dated form.
Actually, I wasn't thinking of the board members getting this section on forms, because there's a full explanation in the legal requirements section as to what these forms are, so that they would then go to the city clerk and say, I need form so-and-so.
Well, let me just play the devil for a minute here. You know, at sometimes, I know all's in council, oh, we got to get that form filled out, or it slips your mind, and without Lenore sending us a reminder that our yearly financials or whatever it might do, right? So, you know, my thing is it's got to be in front of them. And I think that the forms have got to be there. They've got to be, you know, readily available, and they also have to know, and I think, you know, if you do that, remind everybody they need to have those forms, what things do. Because, I mean, think about people you hand the book to. They get on the board. When are they going to pick that? Maybe they read it. But are they going to remember 6, 8 months from now when that particular form is going to be, or are they going to be smart enough to go back and look? They're not until somebody reminds them, hey, you're on this board, you have to fill out this form. So I just want to make sure we highlight that that's something important, and somehow we have a check system to.
The city clerk's always sent the forms to the newly appointed member.
At the time that they need the form.
At the time that they're appointed, the city clerk has always sent a letter out with the attached form to make sure that they fill it out. And they have the option to send it to the supervisor of elections or to provide it to the city clerk, who then mails it certified letter.
Let me just learn the process here. What happens if someone's on the board? That's the first year, right, or when they get on. How about year 2?
Year 2, the supervisor of elections, I'll make sure you can hear me. Year 2, the supervisor of elections mails it out in June. I send a reminder letter around that same time frame, and then I verify on the Commission on Ethics website that everybody has complied. If they don't comply, I'm sending them a letter, I'm calling them, I'm sending it by email to make sure we have 100% compliance. So they will be filling the form out if they're required.
Okay. I just didn't want it to not be filled out by someone just knowing how possibly I am and other people, when they get the information, they read it once, okay, I know what the board does, but do you really remember that the date you have to have that form in? So obviously that covers it.
I'm just looking at it from a point of view of, if we have an example that's attached with, say, the Board of Adjustment or P&Z or Code Enforcement, it's there so that, like Frank says, if somebody thinks about applying for P&Z or Board of Adjustment, Everything is in that little handout for Board of Adjustment. So at least it shows them what the form is.
Okay, now, they won't, I don't envision anyone getting a handbook until after they've been appointed. So this isn't, a really nice handbook just being given out to everybody. They still need to do their homework before they come in here and say what they want to be on. But then once they are appointed, then they get all this information to follow up with.
I'm going to play devil for a minute here. Because when we go out and we're trying to sell the idea for these people to get on boards, well, what's the board about? To me, that's where I really was interested in your handbook, was as much before, because I listened to your questions you asked people. One of the questions you asked, have you read that particular comprehensive plan or whatever? So if someone's interested in, or we're interested in getting that person on the board, they ask us, well, what does the board entail? I hand them this. Or go by City Hall, read it, pick it up, you'll see what each of the boards entail. So as much as being an information after the fact, I think it's great information before it.
Okay.
And we don't have to hand it to them.
All I'm saying, just from the questions you ask, I hear you always ask people, do you know what that board entails? Well, if they don't get this,
Yeah.
And this should be available on the website.
Yeah.
We don't have to hand it to them.
Yeah.
If they're interested in it, and the examples are there, they know if they're looking at this board, here's everything that I'm going to have to do if I want to serve on that board.
yeah, I don't, again, yes, whatever the media that we send it out on, fine. If it's going to be on the website, I think it needs to be, our website needs to be easily navigated so they can get the information.
I would say going along with that, because I've had a few questions that I've talked to Courtney about on the website about boards. For example, we get a list that says who the liaison is for that. But if you go to the website, it doesn't tell you that. There's nowhere that says who that is. And I use that from the point, if someone said I was interested in Sampson Island Board, maybe I would go talk to that liaison, whoever that person is, to get more information. But that's not put on there. So from the handbook point of view, I would say, yes, you have the website as it is now, but there should be a link there. So if you want more information on that particular board, that it would link you to that all this information that you see here pertinent to that board. And then you don't have to look at all of it. Or if you want to look at all of it, you could go click through every single board and you can go look at everyone if you wanted to. But the information is all there on the website. I'm just saying, like right now, the website's a little bit, it could use some more in there.
Yeah, and it's going to be changed.
Right. It just obviously it doesn't have all this information in there.
In addition, if you're going to reference it in the city code, that's available, and I would assume at some point in time, these boards would fall out of the actual code portion, this references handbook, correct?
That's how the code's going to be, that's how this is going to
So
be adopted by.
you would want that, if you're going to reference it in the code, you would want that obviously to be on the website and available so somebody knows how many, what the qualifications are to serve on the board and the terms and things like that.
The liaisons could be added to the website.
Right.
Super easy.
This is just maybe the way I think. Before I get on a board, I'm interested in finding out what it entails, when it meets, what it does. Once I'm on the board, am I really interested in this? I'm on it already. I'm going to the meetings. So for all the amount of work you put into it, I want it available to them so they learn about the board before they get on it. Because it might not be for them once they really get into it and realize maybe there's some financial disclosures or whatever, quasi-judicial. Some people might be standoffish. So I would rather have them get the information, at least have it there first, too.
Okay, what I would like to do when we decide on the content, I'd like to work with Lenore to come up with a version of the handbook that would just be for general distribution to anybody who might be interested, because you are going to have people who would prefer to go see it on the website. You'll also see others who would prefer a hard copy. So we need to be prepared for that. And then, the way I see this, the city clerk is going to have a notebook, it's probably going to be that thick, that it's going to have all of the information, to include all these extra additional information pages and all that kind of stuff. The city clerk's notebook is going to have all of that stuff. But nobody else is going to need all of that stuff. Especially the information with the boards and all. So after somebody gets on a board, then the city clerk can go into her big fat file and pull whatever is relevant for that person and augment their handbook that way. Now, when you envision this handbook that's given out to somebody who's just thinking about it, do you see them getting also all of that general information, or just the detailed information on the boards?
I think just the detailed information on the boards.
In the general,
In
it's
the
just
general,
available
yeah.
to them.
Right.
And I think the way that you structured this book with kind of the history in the front, that kind of, if I'm looking at maybe volunteering, I'm reading all that stuff, and I'm probably getting at least interested. So I think, it's important that all of that be there, but it doesn't need, I don't think it needs to include all that other stuff. Just make it somewhat simple so they can understand the boards and what they do, and I think what's here is pretty good, without all the other ancillary stuff.
Okay, so let me work with Lenore, and we'll come up with a sample booklet that for people who are just maybe interested, and then the more complete handbook after they're on.
That would be good.
Okay. So then, these were Board of Adjustment forms that will need to be redone and updated. And then that leaves this page, which is a summary of changes that need to be made to the city code based on what I've done here with this handbook. And after these various portions are eliminated, then obviously you're going to have to do some renumbering of what's left in the code. And on the pension board, we need to change the term to 3 years, and we can do that. And then I found another thing today, section 2-77 is another little thing about attendance at meetings. It was just thrown in there. It needs to come out, and then the ordinance definitely needs to say that all board bylaws, charters, rules, procedures, whatever, rescinded. So, and I'll work with Jim on getting down to the nitty-gritty of what I have found that needs to be changed in the code to go along with this handbook.
And Jim, I know you've kept up with this as we've been moving along through the process, and you feel good with everything, meets all the state codes and so forth?
Yeah. When I talked to Lorraine, the only thing I talked to her about was basically everything that you guys have done up till now, I don't have any issue with per se. I just need to make sure that if there's a word that needs to be in there because of the statute, that would be the only massage that would be in there as far as what's in here right now. That would be the only changes that I would have, is if there's actually some language that from the statute that looks like maybe we should actually have that, and I'll talk to Lorraine about it.
Great.
And I've tried to be very careful about that and making sure, and Barbara Montanero also was looking very carefully for this kind of.
The idea of what you're doing is in the statutes. It's just a question of whether some specific language needs to be there. That's really all I'm looking at.
Okay. Any other discussion?
So are you okay with the changes that I was suggesting?
Yeah, we just need consensus since it's a
Yeah.
workshop, so everybody.
I'm good with it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it's great. I just think it's so good, Lorraine. The only reason I said that about people getting it beforehand, because you learn, I lived here forever. I didn't know there was, how many miles of roads, which I'm going to use tomorrow night. So there is good information there for people who, want to get involved in the city and are new to the city. So,
And I want to single out John Fergus. He's the one who provided me the information on the city profile and the city history.
thank you, John.
And if he says it's 274 acres, then it is 274 acres.
Okay. All right, so we're all comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay. Lorraine, what's left for you? I don't think we need another workshop, do we? So we just need, when you're finished, it will be brought to council and we'll proceed.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'm good.
Everybody good with that?
And changing topics here, I'll be preparing the special edition information on the road situation. And on that town hall meeting tomorrow night, please bear with me. We're going to be trying a portable sound thing. I don't know if it'll work or not.
I have confidence it will.
I hope so. So you'll be asked to speak into a microphone. so
Yeah, that's
that I can
fine.
hear.
Okay. So tomorrow night, everybody? 7?
Yep.
Okay. And also, I don't know if anybody, but Surfside tomorrow is having an award given to them, and I will be attending that. And then we'll meet with the base tomorrow also, before I will.
Good.
Just for anybody who doesn't know, General Armano got a second star, and she's going to be. on
Leaving
her
in
way
July.
out.
Already, they tell us.
July's what I heard.
Yeah.
All right.
One other thing too, I know, and I think I brought this up at the last meeting, Lenore, did we, when we talked about the legislative days in Tallahassee, did we vote to allow members who wanted to go? I know we talked about it, I don't think we
Any
formally.
members, you mean?
No, I mean, council. I mean,
On-
I don't think council authorized anyone to go yet. So
No.
that needs to be on our next agenda, if you would put that down, because I already have, and I've already made reservations at the hotel.
I think too, on that, we need to make sure we check Courtney to make sure we budgeted all that stuff in our budget this year. I'm not sure what we did and did not do, but if we could check.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. One other thing, if you didn't hang out around Old Mark Realty, or I call it that, the surf contest was this weekend, let me tell you, if we don't believe people love the beach around here, and that's why they're here, all you needed to do was drive down A1A Saturday and Sunday. I stopped by. Let me tell you, the people in the town, there was all age brackets of people from our town there. It was packed from morning till night. And those guys, I talked to Courtney about recognizing the guys from Long Doggers, and they put on the concert, and the city staff who was there, Kerry was there from morning till night, the police was there. I mean, it was an incredibly good event. I mean, the first time they did it, it was pretty cool. So, anyway, just amazing how much more parking we're going to need. I'll leave that alone. So, any further business? No. Hearing none. See you tomorrow night. Okay, it was amazing. God.